Welcome to Grounding Ascension, where we explore topics around activating and integrating our I am presence, coming back to our true selves. I am your host, Celeste Glus. Hello and welcome back. It's been a while since I've been here and it feels really good. I had to take a break. For those of you that don't know, we have been busy opening our new studio called Moo Bar and Temple in Oahu, Hawaii. And it's been quite a trip outside of the obvious things that go with opening a brand new business. To me, it's so much more, and actually not even considered opening a business. To me, it's been more of a birthing initiation, which I continue to learn every single day, and I do feel that I'm still in the middle of it all. But this podcast did take a break for a while, and I believe it's because I had to make some changes to it. So, as usual, it is still on the topic of grounding ascension, meaning really combining spirit and body, which is, to me, the ascension process. But I'm going to be adding a twist to that, and that's via the perspective or the lens of the feminine. My work has really been taking an obvious shift towards a feminine focus, and with that being the focus of my work at this time of my life, I think it's only accurate for me to bring that into the podcast. So, welcome to Grounding Ascension via the feminine. And just a really quick disclosure, the feminine is an energy, not a gender. Okay, so today I have something really exciting to share, and it's the medicine of the feminine in all of its colors and beauty. Now, why is this even a thing? Why is it coming up? Well, I think it's coming up first and foremost because with this birthing of Moo Bar and Temple, of course, and my focus really being towards bringing women together and coming back into the sacredness of life via really understanding our womb and our bodies and the wisdom that our body holds, I'm finding that we as a collective are not connected to everything I just said. We're not connected to our bodies, and as women, our wombs, and just as people in general, we're just not as open and connected to all that is beyond the physical. And in my perspective, what you see in the physical is only like 1% of reality, right? That 1%, of course, holds a big chunk of our life, but nevertheless, it's still only a very small fraction of what we're actually made of and what actually resembles all that we are. So I would love to just dedicate an episode on coming back to the wisdom of our bodies. And so who is this specifically for? Well, I genuinely think it's for everybody. I know that's not like the best answer, but I do believe that men, women, and everyone, everything in between, we just need to be more connected. And that means being more receptive to all that we are. And a big question that has been coming up lately in many of my energy sessions with clients is, who am I? Like, what is behind everything that I thought I was? And what is happening right now? There's such a big shift in frequency, and I'm having an awakening, or I have this trauma that out of nowhere came up, and I thought I was this person, but I realized I'm only this person because I hold this trauma. But without it, once I move through it and process it, what is left of me? And that can leave us in a place of numbness. That can leave us in a place of not knowing. And genuinely, the process of ascension, the process of awakening, the process of coming together in sacred union, all of these things to me, they have a lot of things in common, but one of the big things they have in common is we come to this place of complete emptiness. It's like a stop. Your life comes to a halt. And in that stop, which could feel like forever, in the physicality, it could take months, maybe years. For me, it took years to go through that stop. But it's different for everyone. And when we're in the middle of that, and I'm not saying that I'm over that, I think it's actually a repetitive cycle that we continuously come back to. But when we're in that stop, it's like we've lost connection to our bodies, because our bodies are just this accumulation of memories and thought patterns. So when we start to process these thought patterns and emotions and belief systems, once we start to process them and integrate them and move past them and get rid of those that no longer serve us, we're left with a huge empty space of what seems to be nothingness, which is actually everything. But what happens then? How do we come back to the human aspect of our journey? How do we come back to investigating all that we are? So if you've ever taken an energy session with me, or you've ever had the conversation with a friend of, I thought I was this, or it seems like I'm just realizing now that I'm not happy with my lifestyle, or I've created a lifestyle around the things that I used to be, and I no longer fit that. I think this podcast is meant to provide a little bit of light onto some of the medicine of the feminine that can help us come back to getting curious about all that we are and connecting to something new within ourselves. So beautifully enough, the information that has come through for this podcast has been split up into such a perfect 4 segments. And the 4 segments are the 4 seasons of the menstrual cycle. And just to be clear, if you don't have a menstrual cycle, or you're a man, or you just don't connect to that, just put it to the side. It's not important. It's just, again, it's my lens, it's my perspective, and it's the eyes through which I see the world at this time. So that's why I've decided to take this twist on grounding ascension and say via the feminine, because it's my lens, it's my perspective. So take what resonates and throw away the rest, right? So here we go. Let's break down the medicine of the feminine in 4 stages. So we're going to start first with the winter stage, which in the menstrual cycle is the menses, or the bleeding time. And again, these are all tools that I think can help us at any point in life to really come back to our bodies, hands on heart, hands on womb, silencing the mind and coming back into the wisdom that is the intelligence of this human vehicle, which I genuinely believe that that's the path that we're all on. It doesn't matter if we're an IT tech or a finance engineer, or, just a mother at home, or, anything and everything in between. I think one of the biggest things that we're here as humans to explore is, what are we made up of? And what more lies within me? So coming back to the medicine of the feminine, starting with winter. And you can actually use these medicines if you have a menstrual cycle at these times. I find they're even more powerful to use at that time. So during the menses, or related to the essence of death and transformation, we look at the medicine of the unseen and the mystical. So the feminine brings forth these aspects of life. She helps us connect to what I had mentioned in the beginning of this episode, which is that part of life that cannot be touched, that part of life that we cannot see with our physical eyes, but we may be able to see from another place. And that's why the feminine is oftentimes so hard to connect to in the beginning, because she represents something so mystical, something behind the veil. A few tools that have helped to connect to this, at least in my work, is sound healing and energy healing. So I find that sound healing specifically, right away, you're working with the primal essence of the universe, right? All of that which exists has a sound, has a frequency. Plants have sounds. They make music. Everything has sound. Just because we can't hear it, right, doesn't mean that it doesn't have sound. So anything that is alive and has consciousness has sound. And when we connect to sound healing and sound medicine, I find that this, and by the way, I'm obviously not a scientist of brain waves and all these things, but I'm sure, I don't doubt that there's research out there that proves that the frequency of sound healing shifts the way that the brain works and creates a receptive vehicle for us to connect to this mystical aspect of life. Now, these are not random opinions. These are only things that I've put together through many years and then looking back, because my journey started via meditation and sound. For many years, I could not listen to the radio. It would give me nausea and it would make my body cringe, and I'm not exaggerating. So obviously for someone like me who grew up as a dancer and listening to the radio 24/7, it was a huge change. It was extreme and I didn't understand it. Looking back, I understand that anything that you listen to the radio has a specific frequency that is not in alignment or does not match our body's frequency. When we look at sound healing instruments, and specifically I work with alchemy bowls and other sound healing instruments, we see that these frequencies match the frequencies of the body. Again, I don't know the research behind this. I just know the effects that it's done for me. I also know that listening to source vibrations, which to me is also a form of sound healing, completely shifts your consciousness and the way that you can connect to the wisdom of your body. It's very healing. At least that's what I found. So notice the sounds that you take in, most specifically the music that you listen to. And I'm not saying not to listen to the radio, but maybe you can balance out the sounds that you take in by adding in some sound healing or some source vibrations from time to time. Maybe if it's just for a short meditation or a relaxing bath, right? You can always have this beautiful sound. Also sound, the nature sounds are sound healing. Like the sounds that you hear in nature, if you are lucky enough to be living in a place of nature that has natural sounds, that is sound healing in itself. That's source vibrations in itself. So just take a moment to check in and see what kind of sounds are you taking in. I remember when I lived in New York City, the sounds were of a city. And again, they would make my body cringe and I didn't feel healthy. Now, I don't think that just because you live in a city, it's, bad sound, right? There's always ways around it. I would carry headphones and I would listen to my source vibrations, or, there's always ways to go around it. But just check in and see what sound you're listening to. All right, I'm gonna speed this up because I could make this like 3 hours. I also mentioned energy healing. So I find that when you work with energy healing or when you receive energy healing, you're simply telling your body, hey, I'm ready to experience, tap into, or feel something that I haven't felt before if you're not an energy healer or an energy worker. And I find that that makes a big shift in the body consciousness. Another thing that is representative of the menses or the feminine is intuition, right? Our intuitive abilities. So tapping into our intuition and allowing our intuition to guide us more often than not, I find is a really great way to come back to the wisdom of our bodies. So if you're someone who overthinks things and only makes decisions out of the mind, see if you can start to listen to that little hunch that you have, or listen to that little inkling, even though it makes absolutely no sense. Try it. Try it in small ways. Try it in the ways that you reach for your food, or you make your decisions about, how you make yourself, I don't know, your daily routines, or how you get to work every day. Trust your intuition and find new ways of doing these things. That's a really good way to start. And two more things for this time, the menses time, and connecting to our divine feminine, is connecting to our womb space, of course. So if you are disconnected to your womb, it doesn't matter what age you are or what phase of your life you're in, it's a really great tool for women to come back into the medicine of the feminine. So if you're completely disconnected to your womb, I find it will be hard to connect to your intuition, or at least ground your intuition, one of the two. To me, before I was connected to my womb, intuition was just kind of this foggy thing. I wasn't very clear on what it was or how it was running through me. And grounding the intuition was a major, major block that I had, because I was very disconnected to the womb. And via working with the womb, I realized that the womb, our connection to it, helps us ground a lot of the etheric things. So if you're someone who's highly intuitive and is having a hard time maybe grounding or connecting, the physical and the spiritual, or the unseen and the seen, I highly recommend connecting to your womb on any way that calls you, energetic, physically. Okay, and then I chose the element of water, or it's water that chose itself to represent the time of the menses, but most importantly to understand that because in the menses time, we're in this hugely open and receptive, intuitive channeling state. And so water represents the deep subconscious, the unfolding mysteries of the never-ending oceans. And so understanding that the waters within us hold information, right? We're made up of mainly water in our body. And so understanding that, drinking high quality water, connecting to water in different ways, going to the ocean, taking a bath, using steam is a huge, huge way to, again, activate the body's wisdom, soothe your senses via water, and see what happens to you. All right, let's move into the second season of the menstrual cycle, which is springtime, pre-ovulation. And by the way, if you're completely new to this, check out Align with Womb Wisdom, the free course that explains all of the seasons of the menstrual cycle, if you're into that. All right, so springtime, and again, more tools to activate the wisdom of your body. One, first and foremost, I find movement, okay? People that are not moving their bodies on a routine basis, to me, it has to be daily. If I'm not moving daily, I feel stagnant, I feel stuck, I don't feel well. That doesn't mean I'm going all out crazy on a workout every day. I do have to say I love working out. But even if I don't feel like working out, taking a walk, doing a stretch, just anything that gets your body moving in a healthy way. I'm finding in many energy healing sessions that there's a lot of stagnation in our bodies, and a lot of it just comes from not moving or holding positions, most of us at work or in our lifestyle, that are not complementary to our health. So either way, just the fact that we're not moving in healthy ways. And then some of us are just working out in unhealthy ways. So movement in general is very related to springtime. We're coming out of menses and we're gaining energy. But most importantly, understanding that movement is a huge tool to come back to the essence of the body, to come back to the wisdom of the body. Because if we're not moving energy, it's going to get stagnant. And you cannot activate the wisdom of your body if your energy is stagnant, right? So create a movement routine that's healthy for you and sustainable and feels good. Like, it's really important to create a routine that you want to come back to time and time and time again, because it's fun. Of course, I think it should be challenging. I think it should be stimulating. I think it should be fun. But at the end of the day, you just got to move. And if you're not moving, that's not sustainable. Okay. Other things that I love to help activate the wisdom of my body and the connection to the feminine is, especially related to springtime, is plants and herbs and essential oils. And I kind of put all of these together because they all are one, right? We're looking at plants, we're looking at herbs, whether you're using them as teas or medicine, and essential oils, right? We could use essential oils for so many different things, but ultimately really connecting to earth, and that happens to be the element of spring, is earth. Connecting to earth and all of her beauty, right? So using herbs as a form of tea and using herbs that actually will support your health. I think we have forgotten how powerful herbs can be in our process of activating our wisdom, our body's wisdom. You can simply make a tea every night, and this is what I've been doing lately, just sort of changing up the herbs depending on how you feel or what you feel your body needs. And I'm talking about real herbs. I'm finding that when you can see the herb, when you can smell the herb, when you can see the herb in full, as opposed to just buying a regular bleached tea bag that you have no idea what's in that tea bag. You don't even know what the color of your herb is. You don't even know what it looks like. Like, that was me for a very long time. And of course, convenience, lifestyle, that's the world we live in, right? You just buy a tea bag, you just throw it in hot water, you take it, right? I just find that when we see the herb in its full essence, we understand its color, we understand what it smells like, we receive the magic of nature, of earth. And this is not some like woo-woo statements. There are aspects of the feminine, like I had mentioned earlier, which are mystical, which are unseen, which cannot be touched but must be experienced. And I find that working with plants is a big vehicle for that. Like, really getting familiar with the plants and the essential oils and the herbs that are in your life, and including them in your foods, in your day-to-day life, and really receiving the medicine. It's really life-changing. So if you have not yet done so, I highly recommend including some plants and herbs and essential oils, and finding ways to connect to earth in general, right? Placing your feet on the ground, receiving that electromagnetic force is absolutely just divine. And I do have to share that in many of my energy healing sessions, I see that a lot of people, their feet are not grounded on the earth, meaning they're wearing shoes all day and they're not necessarily, their energy field is not connected to that of the earth frequency. And so that's leaving them ungrounded, which therefore leaves them in this place of in between, in this place of, I don't feel connected to my body or my life. And then I see the energy on their feet, and their feet are completely disconnected to the earth. And we have to understand that in the feminine, in the perspective of the feminine, we are one with the body of the earth. Our body is the earth. The earth is our body. So when we see that the earth is in need, it's because it's reflecting our bodies as a collective, right? And just coming back to understanding that it's really important to get our bare feet on the ground. So if that's not something that you do, I highly suggest you find a way of doing that. Okay, let's move on. Next season is summer, which is ovulation. So during ovulation, our energy is high. We want to be out in the world. We have all of this inspiration and creativity that we're just ready to share with the world. So some of the things and some of the medicine of the feminine to support us in that action of connecting to the wisdom of our bodies via the feminine is community. I cannot stress the importance of community, guys, most especially at this time in this world. Having a community, surrounding yourself with people that you can look at eye to eye and feel, number one, safe. Okay. Number one for 2021, safety, right? No matter how you feel about it, just understanding that to be able to look at somebody in the eye and just feel safe that you're in front of them and be able to share conversation from heart to heart, that is probably one of the most powerful and profound things that you can do at this time. Breaking down that barrier of being in a fear and stressed out mode and saying, wow, I am surrounded by a community that I trust and I feel good around, and I can share. I can share my experiences with. I can have a conversation. I am finding that's one of my favorite things that is happening at Mubar and Temple. Like I think that's what is filling up my heart more than anything in that studio space right now. It's just the fact that we're creating community and we're creating conversations, and more than anything, more than opinions, more than where everyone stands, it's more about let's come together and talk. And that's it. And so I find that community and gathering and conversation and sharing, these are all the things that I put down for inner summer, is really powerful to connect to the divine feminine in your body and in your life. And the element that has come through for summer is wind. So air, right? Speaking, sharing, the movement of air. Sometimes I just like to stand outside and just feel the wind blow in my face, right? Or just like move my hair and just close my eyes and breathe that fresh air. And then noticing what happens in that moment of stillness. Like believing that the wind is talking to you, right? And maybe that feels crazy, maybe it doesn't, right? Depending on where you are in your journey or how you connect to nature. But I cannot tell you the number of times that I've just fallen on my knees and just cried, just from realizing how strongly nature is connected to us and speak to us all the time. So connecting to the wind, whether it's your voice or just actual wind outside or just fresh air, and feeling gratitude for that, bringing that in, welcoming that into your life. It's a beautiful, beautiful tool to connect to the feminine. Okay, and the last one, the last season of the cycle, which is by far one of my favorites after working a lot with the menstrual cycle, because it definitely wasn't my favorite to begin with, is inner fall premenses. So premenses, our emotions are on a high. We tend to be on edge if we don't understand our bodies and the medicine of the feminine and the medicine of our menstrual cycles. And so I put emotion, or what came through was emotion came up as the number one tool, as a way to connect to our feminine. Our emotions tell us everything about what is happening in our life in every moment to moment basis. So if we can bring a little bit more awareness, more through the heart space and less through the mind, about the emotions that are running through our bodies from moment to moment, and visualize your emotions coming in through the heart space, meaning whatever emotion is happening, first and foremost, it's coming from the heart, meaning it's perfect and pure for what it is being transmitted as, whether it's rage, it's happiness, it's bliss, it's sorrow, it's whatever it is. It's being emitted from the heart space, which means it's in complete purity and it shall not be judged. And then understanding that and knowing that, maybe we can start to learn from our emotions before we try to judge them or push them onto others around us. So I find that understanding our emotions is a beautiful tool to really connecting to the feminine wisdom of your body and your life. And I'm not talking about, again, understanding them from a logical perspective. I'm talking about understanding the medicine behind your emotions. So especially premenses, when your emotions are all over the place, or you just feel like the world's coming down on you, or you just feel overwhelmed, or all these things that happen to us, right? Premenses, or just overall in life as a human being. Emotions are just so incredibly intense, especially at this time in the world, 2021, everybody's on edge, right? So being able to take a few steps back and understand that the Great Mother experiences, creates, and allows for all of us to see these emotions for what they are, so that we may receive the medicine from these emotions. So maybe just opening yourself up to, can I receive the medicine of this emotion without mentally breaking it all down, analyzing it, what's wrong with me, what's wrong with you, without doing any of that stuff. Just allowing the emotion to be, and allowing the emotion to speak to you, but not for you. I hope that makes sense. Okay, a big, big tool to connect to the feminine and the medicine of the feminine, especially at premenses time, is food, is creating meals. I find that women at this time, this is the time where they start to create diets and restrictions around what they're eating and what they're consuming, because they feel bloated and they don't feel happy, and their body is, they see themselves as out of shape. It's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Let's take it back 3 weeks. This is the time where you need to nourish yourself. And so I find that even all throughout the menstrual cycle, or just every day as a human being, using food as medicine, using food as a way to honor your body, and understanding that you're just what you eat. That's what you are. You're just a combination of all that you eat and all that you feel. So given that, now that we broke that down, check in with the foods that you're eating. And check in with them to see, are they nourishing me, or are they just filling in gaps? And I'm just going to leave it at that, because I could just go on about that forever. But understand that food is your medicine, and food is a medicine of the feminine. And so the foods that you're taking into your body and into your life, and the way that you're eating them, and the environment in which you're eating them, and the amount of focus that you're giving your food and your meals, has a huge part to do with your connection to yourself, to your body, and to your intuition, and into your feminine, and to the wisdom of your body. So if you don't already connect with your food, and I always find, even for myself, like, that's just an ever going practice. I can always connect more. I can always be in more honor and reverence to the meals that I eat, and to the way that I eat my food throughout the day. And speaking of food, the next tool for the medicine of the feminine is cacao. If you don't know, it is one of my favorite foods and medicines to work with. And I do believe that, especially premenses, it's something that if we are not currently taking in regards to its pure form, pure sacred cacao, it's definitely something you may want to look into, because it has all the micronutrients and the elements. And again, it's the pure medicine of the mother, of the heart. And I specifically wrote heart as a tool, or as a way for us to connect to the medicine of the feminine, because it's via the heart space, it's via love, it's via expansion of what we believe to be love, that we will continue to activate and strengthen and expand the feminine in our bodies and in our lives. And I just find that cacao, specifically sacred cacao, I am not talking about chocolate. I am talking about sacred cacao. If you don't know whether you have sacred cacao in your house or not, that means you don't, because you would know if you had sacred cacao. And I say that because a lot of times we're just eating chocolate, and we don't understand why we can't stop eating chocolate as a human race. And we have to understand that chocolate is, and has been always known for being medicine of the gods, being the food for the gods. And so incorporating sacred cacao, I find, in our lifestyles and as a way to just connect to our hearts is incredibly powerful on all levels: spiritual, mental, physical, emotional. And it's been a huge ally on my journey, and I just continue to endeavor on that path of cacao in the heart. And I find too that the path of the feminine is just this constant path of love. If you haven't heard the podcast, go back and listen to the path of love. But that's the path I believe that we're all on, and we're all going to have to take at some point or another. And the path of love requires us to expand our hearts and expand our perspective of love beyond what we think is humanly possible. And it's not easy. And anyone who says it's easy, they probably either don't understand or they don't know what they're talking about. And so I just find that sacred cacao is a beautiful way to soften the edges of the heart and to open us up to more love. And the element of this time period, pre-menses, is fire or heat. And so understanding that when we warm ourselves, when we use heat, we can use massage, we can use steaming as a way of heat to come into the body, hot water, fire. When we use these things, we nourish the soul at a very deep level. And especially pre-menses, that's a time where you want to think, how can I most nourish my body and spirit? And I find that using heat, right, hot teas, anything that incorporates the element of fire, candles, and heat is extremely soothing to the spirit, and also allows us to slow down, right? Because if something's very hot, you don't just drink it quickly, or you don't just go through it quickly, right? A hot meal takes longer to eat than a cold meal, right? Because it's hot. So inherently, the element of fire and heat asks us to slow down, right? On a very, very hot day, you likely move a little slower because it's just so hot, right? So if you think about it like that. But in essence, the element of fire for the feminine slows us down. And again, this is just my perspective, right? I'm sure you could find different ways to work with fire, but it's how it's coming through for me. And it's how it's coming through for the sake of using these elements as medicine for the feminine. So find ways that you could incorporate fire or heat in your life, especially on those days that you need some more soothing. When I find that I need more soul soothing, or I need to just be more gentle with myself, or I need to really nourish my spirit or my body, I immediately go to hot baths and candles. Not because it's a form of self-care, but because it's genuinely soothing to my heart and spirit. And if you really connect to the medicine in that sense, I genuinely believe that you're going to get so much more out of it. So I hope this wraps up all of the tools and medicines of the feminine in this beautiful way that it's all come together through the menstrual cycle. I hope that you have found something that serves you in this episode. Really, the intention was to share with you all of the ways that the feminine expresses herself on this beautiful planet, and ways that we can come back to the essence of our being through the feminine. Ways that we can come back to the wisdom of our bodies via the infinite of the feminine, and her wisdom and her beauty and her intuitive sense of magic. All right, my friends, I'm so happy to be back here. If you have any specific topics that you'd like to hear about, please don't hesitate to reach out. And I really look forward to continuing this podcast, see it unfold and see it grow as its own little baby, as its own little entity. Okay, until next time, mwah, sending you so much love.